And
And company, we're at work, it's 50%. So, I think this will be here, it's just good. He went to the city, he's not coming yet.
Yeah. Excuse me, sir. You said you said it already.
Yeah. He wants to kind of say this yesterday.
He hasn't called him yet.
Maybe what. So, he said he had a good conversation with him, said they're looking for it. But we did not have it. So 8 o'clock, I think, I think we'll call this to order. I know we have, Jim's not gonna be here, Bernie's not gonna be here. So I think we're gonna have hopefully, Matt's gonna, I think, try to dial in, so we can look for him. And I think that would take care of everybody. All right, I don't know. That's all right. That's good. So we'll start this off, call it to order. First thing before we get to you gentlemen, we just want the approval of the minutes from last meeting that Sue had sent out. You got the motion? Second. Okay. They're very good, as I said last week. I do want everyone to pay attention to them because Sue's putting in sort of action requirements on them. And I think that's good, good information to have, the things we need to follow. So we'll approve those, and then the next up is visitors communication. So we have the gun show. Welcome. So,
can I have all of your names, please?
Yeah, Brad, Kevin Sayre,
Mike Squire.
so appreciate you coming in. Everyone seen you last week and you mentioned you wanted to come in and talk about it. I know the show was successful, but I think that you're running into some issues maybe with the 3-day waiting period.
for sure. Yeah, so attendance was down.
Yeah.
Attendance was about half of the previous years.
Yeah.
You know, nothing that any one of us can do about that. So,
No.
you know, this upcoming year is gonna be, you know, the deciding factor probably as to how things go. You know, hopefully people will just see it as it's the new norm and, you know, start coming back, but
Right. They have to do it wherever they go.
that's right.
So, but there's also the downside of not walking in and walking out with something shiny.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah, it's always been nice to be able to walk in, and leave,
Yes.
whatever you want.
Yes.
So hopefully, hopefully things, I mean, if it stayed like this year, I guess it would be okay, but if attendance drops, I mean, then.
Yeah.
That would really hurt.
You had a storm this year?
Yeah.
A little bit on, Saturday night into Sunday. Pretty much every year we either have a storm or it's like 40 below or something, so that's never been a deterrent to.
Yeah.
Yeah. The weather's not decided.
I mean, we've had negative weather. There's a line all the way down the street.
Yeah.
Negative 10 with wind chill.
So it's a good Susie or something?
Yeah, were there any, like factors associated with the show that, that might require more management on our part? How did parking go? How did?
Oh yeah, that's all stuff I'll bring.
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So you have a list of,
I have a few things to talk about, yeah. So I'll start with the first thing. Joel is amazing worker. I think he did a lot of things this year that helped make it successful. If he hadn't been reachable by phone, after hours or whatever, I don't know. What we would have done in a couple of instances.
okay, it's nice to hear.
So I appreciate Joel and all of the efforts that he did. So the biggest issue that we ran into was the table layout. So our table layout hasn't changed in 40 years. So, we generally show up on Friday, everything's set up. This year, because of scheduling, I think you guys had the gym was used Thursday, so the tables got set up Friday, which was fine. It was fine, except for, when the fire marshal came and decided he didn't like the table layout and wanted it to change.
Okay.
And, me being approached and being told that the table layout had to change, we had to change the size of the tables, or we weren't gonna have our show.
Change the size of the table.
Yeah, so you guys have 8-foot tables and 6-foot tables. The spaces that we sell are based on 8-foot tables, not 6-foot tables. So the concern was the width of the aisles, which have always been the same, every year. So, and at least since we've been doing it, and it's like 15 years, so,
Yeah.
but, long before that, they were all the same. So thankfully, Tom worked it out with the fire marshal to come up with a layout that met, what he wanted.
Okay.
But it made no sense because the space where the vendors stood was larger than the space where the attendees could walk.
Luckily, attendance was low.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if we had like last year's attendance this year.
Right.
It would have been a problem.
But typically you have more aisle space and less
Less
space
space
for
for
the
the
vendors.
vendors.
So
Yeah.
why did we change it?
Because they sell the end tables as well.
Yes, we do. And always have.
But now we have a fire marshal who is holding us accountable to the fire code.
Yes.
Right, they didn't do that before. So everything before now, it's been looked the other way, when we're going happen on that side. We got a fire marshal who's actually doing his job. And to get the space on that we needed on the ends, we have to put the tables in the middle. Which gives you 8 feet in the middle, but it tightens us up,
Yeah,
which is, we discussed about.
that's what I'm saying. So,
Probably next year, plan on the end pieces being 6-foot tables.
yeah, I can't, that's the thing, I can't, because those vendors have been coming for 40 years. And that's the space they've always had, and
Yeah,
that's
but
that's what we charge for. So if I'm shrinking the table, I have to charge less for the table. That table rental pays the rent here, so if you're taking space away from me, are you gonna lower the rental for us? Like we're losing space if you do that.
but it's,
I don't know, that's just.
fortunately, it's the way we have to work. We can't. You know,
This is the city fire marshal?
yeah, he's following the fire codes, yeah.
Yeah, just want to make sure it's a state or whatever. It's a city.
That's a difficult one. We can't, we deal with a lot of inspectors at work, and yes, you can go to one and they're okay with this, the other one's gonna be more of a hard ass on it. We can't change any laws like that, it's just, it's what it is, so we're stuck with that. Unless we can get creative, and come up with a way to change the layout somehow. So just to be clear on it, you have tables running this way, and then you have a cross table.
Yes.
It doesn't that make like one, like this whole area would be Paros,
Yeah, sometimes.
so. There, you're gonna shrink up, you'll have the same running length of it, you'll just be
Instead of 8 feet.
narrow.
8 feet across the ends, it would be 6 feet across the ends.
Right.
So to affect that table on that end, the table on that,
Right,
but not the tables running down.
so if you look at it though, in terms of space, counter space for it, you've got the same run here, you're just losing 2 feet on either end.
That's right.
But you're
Okay,
still gaining this on the end though. You're still
Right.
gaining another.
but they have like, Paris
That's
has five,
They're
4
gonna do
tables
that.
long or something like that.
Arrow used to have 18 tables, that's a whole lot.
But they.
Right, so 18, so 16 long.
Yeah,
So you're still.
So
gaining.
16 times 8, 148, plus another 16, so they're losing 2 feet on 160 foot of table space.
they would have been losing 4 feet, right?
4 feet.
Overall.
On 160.
Yeah, for them. But if somebody has 3 tables, so they just have the end cap,
Right,
right, which is 24.
Right.
That knocks them down to 20.
so
So
it's
it's a huge amount.
No, it drops them down
Or it knocks them down to
to.
22, so it's 2 feet, but,
You just lose you lose 2 feet on the
And then-
end table,
and then the other person does this, on the other end does the same.
Right,
the other end.
right, understood. I don't know how we never ran into this, so I
And if
don't
we
know
do
how
that
to
on
handle that.
times 3, because we've got 3. And the downstairs is 3, downstairs with no problem, upstairs.
Downstairs, we didn't have any problem with the downstairs.
4, 4.
Yeah.
Across, 5 across. 4 across.
Yeah, four rows.
Yeah.
So we'd be losing the equivalent of 2 8-foot tables for the whole table.
Super.
I'm sorry it happened. I'm sure that it was very stressful to have something like this come up at the last minute. However, one suggestion that I have is I think we should come up with a table chart, a drawing that basically shows how the room is gonna be set up so that it can be shared in advance of an event. So
Oh, it
it's
is.
not this last minute.
Tom has it, and
Okay,
It is.
it's been the same, the one that the city's had for
okay.
as long as we've been doing it.
All right, so, and it shows okay, so basically, to alleviate this kind of thing, I think we've got to get the fire marshal to sign off on it in advance. Because this is very difficult to do when you're busy trying to set up a show.
We do have a layout. The craft show put together a layout. That was all the fire codes, and it's almost exactly the same as what you have.
How many tables do they have on the upper floor?
It's full, just like yours. I
Yeah,
mean, it's literally almost the same layout.
Right.
I'd like to see it.
I think we gotta try to see what we can do and look at the layouts. That's. Unfortunately, as Sue said, stressful when it happens right then.
Yeah,
You got away with something, we got away with something for whatever, 30 years. Now that's not gonna be able to happen anymore. So we're gonna have to come up with something creative and take a look at that. I don't know what we'll do. In terms of money back. That's a little bit of a hard one, great situation. I mean, we can't do anything about it. We're not trying to take anything, the
Sure.
code was doing it. But if we can take a look and see if we can get all your space. And rearrange it slightly and get all the space you need, that would be the first choice.
I would see the first choice for me too.
Yeah, okay, so that, we'll have to look at layouts and figure that one out and have more discussion on that one.
And then on the tables, it seems like you guys are short on tables, like, that we used every table on the building, right?
We used every single table we had, yes.
And we brought a few down.
Right.
Yeah.
we down tables? Did some get taken out of circulation or?
I don't know what we had before.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, so
Right.
I've dealt, Joel said that's about all we've had. Of course, there's a couple that, you know, they pass on, we'll say, they fall apart.
Yeah,
Ben's lanes,
bad night.
That looks great.
where they're not safe.
Yeah,
Set up.
yeah.
How many did you
So how many-
did you have to bring in? We brought 3 down?
Yeah, we bought just enough for our concession stand.
How many?
3.
Yeah, but like, I think these tables came down, right? All these tables.
Every table we had
Yeah,
over there, here, and out of the, BO.
and that'll be alright.
Huh.
So that, and I don't think that's happened.
Right, I was just gonna say, we have a shortage, we have not had shortage in the past either.
Yeah. So some have just been thrown out or whatever. but-
Right.
No,
Or
It's
maybe
just-
they were loaned for some of the flood,
Oh,
you know,
sure.
activities.
I think
Things everywhere have disappeared.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
just.
They have 4 legs, they're gonna walk really easy.
Yeah.
So how many do you think you're short?
Huh.
Besides the 3 you brought in?
No, that was it, we, I
Oh,
mean,
so you're
Tom
at 33 tables?
Tom was using every table from everywhere around, made it work, but that was. You know, we brought 3 down from the pub and, and that was fine, but it's just something to keep in mind
I
that,
appreciate the feedback.
you know, that's not something that you wanna, you know, we don't wanna show up and there's 10 or 15 tables short, you know?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that could easily happen if a couple tables get broken and,
Yes,
you know, whatever, somebody borrows a dozen tables and,
yeah,
yeah.
but take a look at the shape of some of the tables, and some are,
I mean, it should be part of the plan, whatever the layout's
That's
gonna
right.
be, that says you got X number of tables here.
And have an overage just in case as you
Yeah.
open them up.
Yeah,
we have
there'll be an issue for the craft show as well.
Yeah.
The craft show is pretty much the same layout as them,
Just about, yeah.
so we'll take a look at that and maybe get the other 2 tables.
Yeah, I think what we sell like 210, 215 table spaces plus the concessions. On top of that, so you're looking at like 220 tables.
Decent tables.
Yes,
Plus your concession area.
yeah, plus the seating area for food, yeah. There's some
So
sort of 220 tables.
220, 230,
Yeah,
Yeah, good feedback.
so the door keys, when I came in Friday morning and asked for door keys, I asked for all the door keys and I was told that I had them, but when we went to lock up at the night, we didn't have the keys for the doors out front. And on the side, like the one that's at the bottom here and the ones that are out there. So those doors were unlocked. When the security guys came in, you know, they went out to lock them and we didn't have a key to those doors.
Can you lock them from the inside or?
No, we couldn't, like, we tried to use the Allen key and stuff, and that didn't work, you have to use a physical key.
Physical key.
So,
For these doors here.
yeah, for the one, you know, where the ramp is here, and the ones that go out to this.
The ones out front should be locked.
Not
out
the,
with
not the big ones, the ones at the bottom of the stairs here, the ones that go out and the ones that come in the side.
In the connector.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay, so you gave them keys to lock up at the end of the night.
You gave them keys to the auditorium.
Yeah.
This is a different.
it's a different key, so just,
Gotcha, so
You
it
know.
could be a master set that locks everything up.
yeah.
Get all the doors.
So I called Joel anyway, he was able to get the maintenance guy from next door to come over and lock up for us, but
Good.
you know. In the future, just having the keys to lock everything would be good. The maintenance personnel that work for the show. On Saturday mornings are busy and hectic, and the person that's here should be very familiar with the building. Right, and should be here at 7. At the latest, just because, you know, cleaning the steps, you know, running around, you know, if we need an extension cord or whatever, just having that person here is helpful. So Joel actually came in Saturday morning, he wasn't scheduled to make sure that we were all set, because, is it Dave was the guy that, I think was in between.
Yeah.
Was on, he wasn't coming in until 8 o'clock. During the day on Saturday, you know, we had a toilet that got plugged and we asked him, you know, to go plunge it, and he's like, I gotta find a plunger, I don't even know where the plungers are in this building.
Okay.
So,
Is he new? Or-
No, he's been here, he's been over there.
Yeah,
he's actually at the building,
yeah, he said he'd just been over there, he'd never been in the building, turned out there was actually a plunger
in that bathroom.
next to the toilet.
Yes, well, you should be, right?
So, you know, ideally, especially on Saturday, the person that's working should be really familiar with this building. And, you know, Sunday it's less of a problem, but, you know,
Saturday's busiest day.
Saturday is the busiest
Getting
day.
started.
We have vendors coming, you know, not all the vendors set up on Friday, some of them
Right.
set up Saturday morning.
Yep.
You know, so we don't find out their needs until they're here, and then, you know, having that person that I can just go to and say, okay,
Need
we
this.
need this, and then we need it like right
Feasible.
now.
Yep.
You know, so like Joel's always been really good at that, and I personally expected that he was here, you know, like, and then I didn't find out until Friday evening that he wasn't.
Right.
You know.
Right.
You know, that for the past few years, he's been the person on Saturday, so.
Yep.
So that, we had an issue with the stove in the kitchen. Joel actually brought that to my attention the week prior to the show, that the stove, the oven didn't work in the kitchen.
Right. Maybe bring in a different stove or something like
They
that.
brought in an electric stove, and all of these guys talk about how that went. Cause I'm not in the kitchen, but.
Well, I mean, we weren't in the kitchen, because we let simply substate go work.
Yep.
But it was just a regular, small cooktop space.
Yep.
Which he made work.
Yep.
But wasn't what he was expecting
Right,
as what's actually down here for use space.
right.
What we've used in the space, if it had been us in the kitchen, that would not, it would not work for us at all, we would not. do anything.
And we can't do it for ventilation, is that what it is? I can't quite remember what.
The stoves are old and I was waiting on parts.
Yep.
Which. We can't fry anything in there because of the. No ventilation.
There's no ventilation, so we
You
can't be quiet,
can boil hot dogs,
and you can
but the
bake.
extent of what you can do in that kitchen.
Which is all we've done.
Which is all we've ever done. So I think the ovens haven't worked for years, the oven part of them, the stove tops.
So,
always do. And that's what we needed, because we have when we were doing it, we had a big unit to steam the rolls.
Yep.
And then the big pot to do the hot dog.
Yep,
So we've
Yep.
never fried food down there.
so that's what you need, just that one running. So-
Yeah, the stove top, I mean, assuming we stay with the same process where
Yep,
our outside vendor is doing.
Yep.
I think he's
Yep.
fine with that, I think he was planning.
yeah, I think that would work great for everyone, you'll have that.
But the challenge, to Kevin's point, was the electric top was an older style unit, and it just
Right.
doesn't get the water up to a boil when you're doing a big
Right.
batch of.
Right, this was a,
50,
like, thing is temporary, so if we can get the stoves that we have in there fixed, is that the plan to get those running?
That's my hope, we can't get the parts for the oven.
Yeah.
So I did
Right,
open the top up for the tractors because.
yeah,
That's gonna be a decision down the road that.
Okay.
I don't like those stoves.
yes, I heard that.
I mean, we appreciate the fact that Joel or whoever took, was able to
Yeah.
get something there for us, because that would have been a real challenge, because we move a lot of it.
Yes, but there's a big difference in industrial stove and a residential stove, which is what you had.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay,
The parking lot, so we rent the ice rink on Saturday specifically for the parking lot. And what we generally do is Friday night, we have the parking lot, the big parking lot, gated off, so that when people arrive early, they're forced to come park out back.
Yep.
And the parking that's out here doesn't get messed up. And then the same thing, so Saturday night after the show, we'll gate it up. So we were told because of the snowstorm that we couldn't gate off that parking. Because there was a parking ban and people had to be able to come up even though this whole parking area was still available to them,
Okay,
we weren't able to gate that.
right. Who, is that from the city or is that from us? Or
It's the
it's
city.
the city? Yep.
So the problem with that is hockey starts earlier than we do, and they
Yes.
come up and they park however they want to out there.
Yes,
And it messes up the way that we have the parking arranged.
yeah,
Right, so that's kind of a big thing to us, because, you know, even on a smaller day,
Yeah.
we build a parking lot.
yes, always,
You know, and having the rows of cars, you know, nice and even and, you know, all pointing in the same direction is very helpful for getting more vehicles up here.
yep, understood.
So having that, I don't know who we need to talk to about that. If there's a parking ban, you know, just leaving this back.
Right. I'd have to look into that.
I mean, a parking ban is, yeah, it's kind of, you know. It's in the fate of the weather. I mean, we can't, our messaging is all the same about it. The organization's all the same about it, so. I don't know if we'd be able to find another spot and people would be, there's like a dozen people who park it regularly on parking bans.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of space in that park.
Yeah, but it's, we've always done it there, we've trained people to do it there because that we need these lots cleared, et cetera, so we've basically changed our whole winter parking policy this last year, and the only auxiliary parking spots are basically that first row against the BOR, and then the back row in case there's overflow, so I don't think we just have to hope for good weather, unfortunately. I mean, if there's a ban, everyone has been trained to go to that particular spot.
Were they lined up like that over there, or were they just wherever in the park?
Oh, we came on Sunday morning. There wasn't even people that were, I don't think it was people from the parking ban, I think it was hockey. So they were mostly facing the ice rink, but then it wasn't just one row, it was like the row next to the building and then a row behind them.
Right.
You know, with an aisle between them, which
Yeah.
then messes up the whole parking for us, because we park them facing this building and just leave the outer, you know, the outer edges, the truck.
So we have to let the people do the parking ban come up and park
Yeah.
here. Somehow we can come up with a way to put the hockey people over in this lot.
We can try, I don't know if we can force them, I mean, we would have, the lot has to be open for anyone who's coming up to get their car. I mean, they're plowing the lot too, so it has to be open for that.
And
We could put signage up, but then you're at the whim of people respecting it, which is.
everyone would do what they're told.
Right, of course. How silly of me.
Okay.
But that's, I mean, you're at the whim of people following it.
And those 12 people could park like half up at
They could.
the lot right down here, like right as you come into the parking lot of the hill.
I mean, the thing is, we've trained everybody to do that, right? Like, it's the parking ban change was a pretty big change. And we've gone a long way to train everyone that row is what we use for auxiliary parking. It's the parking that's the most convenient for the city to be used in the event of a parking ban. So I think if we were to issue a parking ban and that wasn't available, I don't know where people would park.
They would
in
park
trouble.
everywhere.
Yeah, and then they'd get towed, and then we'd be in a world of hurt, cause that's where they don't get towed. Right, that's where we've trained people that if you park there, you won't get towed.
But I'm not sure, just for clarity, I think his suggestion was, couldn't they be retrained to use the lot over on this side at the very bottom? It would be less of a hike
This
for
spot was
people.
picked because it is the least intrusive for the plowing, right? They park up here, we can get all the snow out from behind them, we can clear the whole lot. When they leave, we've got one row park. Over here, we can't park on this end because that's where all the snow goes.
Okay,
I think if we try to ensure that they're in that one row and get the hockey people over here somehow, signage or whatever. That would let you do your rows everywhere except for the one over here. And I think you could do that.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
can get the hockey people out of there.
Do you have people out there
Yes,
directing that?
yes.
But they start early for the hockey. Or-
Well, they're not here before the hockey, like, I mean, hockey starts at like 6 in the morning.
Right.
You know, we show up
It's crazy
at
that
like
way.
7 or 8 o'clock.
So you're, I mean, the hockey people are leaving, they're not hanging out for your show, right? So is your, could you start parking, could your flag start parking people back here?
That's exactly what we do.
What you did?
Yeah, fill this lot first and then we move over to there, but the thing is, hockey is cycling, so you have. And we can't force everybody out here if this gate's not shut. Right, because people will just go where they wanna go. So the people drive up, that lot's open, they just drive in and park wherever, even though our parking people are telling them to come this way. Yeah, they'll still go out.
So you're running the BOR for the day, so hockey.
Just on Saturday.
Just on Saturday.
This is a Sunday morning.
And this is Sunday morning. Yeah, I mean, it could be a Saturday morning issue also if that gate's not, if the gates aren't shut, and people are coming up to
It
park.
could, but you wouldn't have the hockey traffic.
No, we would just have the parking
People, which they're good to park in that one row.
and their park, hopefully.
Right.
Everything I've seen
Yeah,
this year, they've all parked on that one row. Except
okay,
I think we had one storm where they actually did park on the backside. And a single row on the backside.
okay,
So understand the problem. Let's,
yeah,
next year, if we get there, we'll have to see if we can come up with a way to get hockey people out on Sunday.
sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. The sign, so our understanding was that when we rent the facility for an event, that our event goes on the sign. Right, and I wasn't paying much attention to the sign this year until like the week prior to the show and realized that we weren't on there. So I reached out to Tom and he got us on the sign until Friday morning or whatever, and then the parking ban went into effect, and then our show got taken off the sign and it just said parking ban.
Yep.
Which it seems like that should still cycle, like we should still show up on the sign. And I would like to think that because we rent the auditorium for 2 days and we rent the ice rink for a day, that would give us a little more time on the sign than someone that rents the ice rink for an hour or two or the auditorium for a couple of hours.
Reasonable.
So.
Yep.
I,
I know the sign is, we've had a lot of changeover with positions and
Yeah.
things like that, so we've been a little bit behind on the sign. I think, I don't know if there's a standard of how far before a show you start posting on the sign.
It can't be up for more than 2 weeks.
Yeah, so,
And
2 weeks before
I
that.
try to keep it at 3 events.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's gonna be
Yeah.
such a long cycle.
Yep. I understand that.
I aim for the closest 3.
Yeah, and the gun show is a big one, so I can see, that's a valid point. I don't know if you can cycle one for a minute and the other for 30 seconds, or I don't know how that works. As far as the parking ban,
I don't think our sign is
That's
that,
sophisticated.
that
but
sophisticated.
you could put us on there twice. Like, if you could put in the 3 events, you could put our event in there 2 times and then another event in there 1 time.
Yep, and then as far as the parking ban, I don't know if that has to be posted full time when it's in effect, or if you can still rotate that through, that's the city. We'd have to determine that.
I put the parking ban up as, because I'm notifying everybody in the city about it.
Yeah. Right.
The audience that needs to see that is much bigger than, unfortunately, the ones that see it for your event.
Right. But I agree with, hopefully we don't have a snowstorm, that solves a lot of this.
Yeah.
But certainly I think it's reasonable, since you're renting so much space, that we can get a little more signage for you.
Yeah, thank you. And the only other thing that I had was, attendees mentioned the basic updates, the update needs for the building, so like the bathrooms and stuff, but that's, we say that every year, so.
Yeah, Tom's doing a good job of trying to move a lot of that forward. We do have some hopefully money coming in that we'll be able to work with that as well, but we're definitely well aware of,
I understand it costs money and it takes time.
yes. But the rest of it is good feedback. I like hearing it. Obviously it's great when things go great, you get an attaboy, but when things aren't perfect, it's nice to hear that as well, so.
Well, there were no major issues this year, that's
No.
a good thing, like we did
No
not, the
internet.
internet didn't go out, the power stayed on. I mean, things like.
Internet work.
The internet work, like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there were no huge issues,
Yeah.
that was helpful this
Yeah.
year.
Have you seen, you must be in contact with other gun shows?
Yeah,
Are they seeing the same kind of diminished attendance as you guys have? I would think that would be a universal problem.
yeah, so the one, so the Morrisville Fishing Game Club, they do theirs at the Essex Fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And they had basically the same attendance that you did.
Yeah.
So,
Same percentage.
for, yeah, the same number of people, essentially, so, like half of last year's, and yeah, and they're drawing from a much huger audience up in Shelby County, so.
It's a huge draw locally, you know, I mean, credit to you guys to put it on. It's just gonna be a tough sell with the waiting period,
Right.
so you'll have to get creative to have other ways to bring them in.
Yeah,
We have a couple ways.
we've tried to be creative, but.
Yeah,
You
good.
know, we're also bringing in other vendors besides just firearms dealers, so that there's some diversity in the product that's there, so maybe some people will come for that.
Yeah, as you said, maybe, you know, people get used to it, it just is what it is, no matter where you go, you're gonna. So hopefully that people get used to it and then so on attend the show,
That's right.
so.
Actually, you guys had an ATM at one time, is there any talk of anything that happening coming back in? Just to get a lot of people to show up.
Right,
And I mean,
understood, I know we did have one at one point, I don't know if that would be contacted someone, do you guys remember how that was set up?
I don't know, Jeff didn't know.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they contacted the bank and.
Doing now, it's
brought that in.
It was like a private entity, the guy
Yeah.
bought up an ATM and parked it in the lobby
Yeah.
and plugged it in.
Yeah.
And that was,
Charge you $4 a transition.
yeah.
Actually, yeah.
Oh,
Um,
Unfortunately, most places now. Car, a lot of places are car.
Oh, I know, that's the trouble that we run into, because we personally can't have card reader at both ticket booths and at the registration table and at concessions, so, you know, like, for us, we don't have that, and having cash is good for us.
Yeah, I think that for the concession, that would be a challenge because of the size of the transactions. Somebody's getting $3 hot dog and they can lose a credit card, so he asked us and we had never been set up for credit card with the concession while we ran all those years. So,
yeah, have you thought about, I don't maybe do this, selling tickets in advance? Basically giving a slight discount and having PayPal set up at your website so that basically people can quickly purchase, print out a little ticket, and then it's a faster check-in rate. And you don't have to deal with as much money at the door,
We aren't set up for that.
but it wouldn't be hard to set it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
no, we have not.
Yeah.
Thought about it, but.
You know, I mean, honestly, you could find, let's say, your nephew or some kid, and they'd set you up really quickly online, and then basically you could offer maybe a couple, you know, like specials early to get people to sign on, to, you know, get rid of that wait, and then people would be walking in and buying.
Well, we have a new IT person that's on it.
Perfect.
Starting to bring that stuff in.
Yeah.
Incorporate into our website.
Yeah.
as far as bringing an ATM, I don't think the city would be opposed to that.
I don't know, we just cut off the bolts that from the old one, so people wouldn't stub over, toes over it, so.
Right,
You have to secure it to the floor.
Yeah.
So no one walks off with it.
yeah. Yeah, that one we'd have to look into, we'd have to find someone and then get the logistics, I don't know if there's any insurance or anything like that, or worries on that end of it, but,
I want to just offer that I had a resistance to doing things online and PayPal for a long time. Because I was under the impression that people wanted to deal with, you know, checks and cash.
Yeah,
And I would say that now about 70% of the people who sign up for classes and workshops down at my place do it online in advance. And it really makes things very simple on bookkeeping and things like that.
sure,
It might help you get an idea of what your attendance is gonna be too.
Yeah,
yeah,
I cut off, you know, the number of people attending different things much earlier. And I can go to my website and say waiting list. it really, it's changed the way we operate.
And it wasn't just for us.
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah, right.
well, a lot of the vendors even look for it too.
Yeah.
We'll say, do you have an ATM here, or what happened to the
Right,
ATM?
right.
Yeah, so a lot of our vendors are actually, you know, of the older generation, I would say.
Oh.
And they don't have, you know, they're cash.
They don't have their Apple Pay set up or
They
whatever.
don't have, I mean, there are some of the newer vendors and the bigger vendors that definitely take credit cards, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, the smaller vendors are definitely not.
Yeah, okay, I don't know, with that, we'll have to talk about that one too a little bit. I don't know if that would be event specific, if someone would come in just for the weekend with something like that, or. For sure.
And if it was something that we found, could we, I mean, would you be opposed to us finding an ATM vendor that could come in? For the,
For just for your show?
yeah. Would you guys be opposed to that?
I don't see a problem. Just for your show.
Okay.
Yeah,
You could just be like another table.
Right,
I think that would be fine.
okay, so we can.
Okay, you guys got anything else to bring up?
I don't, you guys don't stuff.
So we think we covered everything there. I don't know.
Anyone got any questions for the gun show?
Oh, I'm just thinking, we appreciate that you're here.
Yeah, well,
Hopefully we can get these things ironed out a little bit to help out. Hopefully the weather's better and attendance gets better. They change it along.
Yeah,
yeah,
this is all these, fixable stuff here. I appreciate the input on it. And definitely wish you luck with the show. It's a great show. So hate to see it go.
yeah, and we definitely want to keep it here.
Yeah, good.
I will say that there's a bill in the works to eliminate firearms in municipal buildings, and this is a municipal building, and if that law was to pass, the gun show would go away. So, talk to the representatives,
Hope.
and let them know how that could affect us.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the whole movement. So understood. So.
okay,
I appreciate it.
all right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you. How about that? You, what was that?
Matt sent me.
Oh, what did it say? Right there. Oh.
So I'm going to log off now. I didn't even know he was on. So should he jump back in? Should he log out? I didn't see.
Oh, I didn't see him in. That's, yeah, time to try to log back in. So that was good.
I think that was all good information.
It was, I love that feedback. I mean, it's it's easy to get the good feedback. It's a little harder to always hear the worst. But that's what you need to.
Yeah, most of them are details that hopefully we can work out, get one way or the other, that satisfies them and us.
Yep, and it applies to other shows as well.
Exactly. A cable replacement program, do we have anything that, is there anything in the budget, let's put it that way, I guess,
I have to look at it, I did get some prices on it.
yeah, okay. Just, if you could update us that, going forward, because apparently the craft show might have the same problem with tables.
Actually, the craft show did not have a problem.
Okay, wow.
They went through there with the fire marshal, and they laid it right out, chalk lines and,
I'm talking about the number of tables.
no, they still have the same number of tables.
yeah,
This
but I
is,
mean-
the difference is we're running under new rules and new, and they did not want to do that.
I think we just need to work on the layout. You mentioned the craft show's got a great layout. They'll have to work with that.
We put a layout that says it has X number of tables on it, and whatever configuration matches it.
Yeah.
I think maybe 2 feet, square feet make that much of a difference on, I mean, come on.
Oh,
That part there was a little.
Right.
He wants a discount?
Believe me, we're in the process of building a building or adding on to a building, and fire marshal and state inspectors and you name it, I mean, it is, you gotta follow the rules or it's not gonna work.
You gotta follow the rules. Unfortunately, often inspectors interpret it differently and some people enforce it, some won't. So it's like, this is the first time in 20 years that this has been an issue. So,
Yeah.
but it will continue to be an issue because the fire marshal will be the same. So,
Yeah.
so that was a good visit. moving on from there, Nicholas, happy to have you here. Is there anything that you wanted to be brought up or?
No, I think that Tom mentioned there's some things that I could, help address, but,
Yeah, we'd love to do that. That naturally moving forward, the next item is the Civic Center Fund Review. I know, you've been talking to John about getting the original, we're interested in seeing what the original verbiage of how that was set up. I don't think that's been found yet. I think he hasn't contacted Jeff Bergeron.
Yeah, he came by my office. I don't know if we have records going back. I don't know to what extent the
Yeah.
clerk's office has to keep things beyond a certain time period, so.
Yeah.
I know on our website, they're only up till 2010, I think, so, and this I think happened before then.
Yeah, it goes back quite a ways.
Yeah.
So he talked to Jeff. Jeff was gonna see if he could find anything. So we'll look into that, but, there's really nothing we can do.
Well, I guess, whether we find it or we don't find it, I guess, what is the procedure that you think is, what should be going forward, I mean, versus what we think? I mean,
I mean, we've used it for really important, improvements and upgrades to the facility. I mean, we've used it most recently for the lighting, which was a huge need.
The lighting
The heaters.
and the heaters, the only thing we've dipped into that fund for.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think that, they are things that, were absolutely desperately needed up there. So we had the funding to do it and thought that was an appropriate use of it.
I guess I don't disagree with them, that you needed the funds or whatever, but I guess what I'm asking for is that if beforehand, you could say, hey, we need to get some money out of this fund or whatever. We think it's a good application for it or whatever. We were told that, if they find this agreement, which I was on the committee then too, so I know it's out there. That, we were theoretically in control of the fund with permission of the council, but, when we do this, that, or whatever with it. And it was always for non-maintenance item, non-whatever type of thing. We wanted to be able to add to the facility. Something that they didn't have, whether it's more locker rooms at the odd or expanding the locker rooms at the BOR or whatever. That wasn't a maintenance item or what we thought would be a maintenance item.
Yeah, I don't think either of these were maintenance items, to be honest. I think these are both frankly improvements because they were changes to what we had there previously. And so I don't think in this particular case, these are maintenance expenses. The lights are brighter, they're upgraded and more modern.
Yeah, they're definitely an upgrade.
And the heaters are as well, were an improved system up there.
New models of what was there.
Yeah.
So we just,
And whether I agree with you, whether they're maintenance or not maintenance items is not, as far as I'm concerned, it's not my issue. It's the fact that could you tell us ahead of time if you're gonna take the money out of the fund?
No, we didn't, but I don't, I mean, it's city money. We're in charge, the city money, the city staff and the city council are in charge of. If it's over $25,000, the city council has to approve it. So, we see needs that need to get taken care of and we find an appropriate fund source for it and we do it. We're happy to, certainly keep the committee informed. If there's things where we have a longer runway, we're certainly happy to do that. But this one was something that we needed done. When we did those, the heaters were for hockey season where Paul and I have to sit there freezing our tushes off watching, my kid and her grandkid. I was getting complaints every day, so we weren't gonna wait to do that. And then the lights were right before the season started.
right, we had, like I told you before, we had like a week to get the lights in.
I mean, I understand, but you knew you were gonna replace the lights, or is that, I'm wrong? A month or two before? Did you?
No, I was on the job for like
Okay,
2 weeks.
yeah,
And the lights over there.
Yeah.
A full third of them were out. You can't buy those bulbs anymore because it's illegal to buy that bulb in the state of Vermont.
I get it.
So we couldn't replace them, so we have to do it, and we had a week window before we were putting the ice in, because the ice had already been
And I can-
scheduled and
I
reserved.
can understand that when that happens. All of a sudden, if you wanna call it an emergency or whatever comes up, it's gotta be taken care of You guys have to make a decision. I understand it's the city's money you control between you and the council. Every dime that's in any city account or anything like that. But I just think if at all possible going forward, if you could let this group know that, hey, we got something that we need to do. And we'd like to take the money out of that fund, or we're planning on taking the money out of that fund, if you want to put it that way, I mean, that's up to you.
Communication is always helpful.
Yeah.
We'd like to find the original documents just so that we can get on the same page. You guys came way after that was set up. I came after that was set up.
Yeah.
And we'd just like to make sure that we're seeing it the same way. So.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that's fine. I just, we're happy to, also hear suggestions from the committee about how we can spend money out of that fund. I mean, that would be, I think that's a good thing to do as well, right? If there's specific improvements, right, that could be coming out of that, those are things we'll consider as well. I'm hesitant to, put on hold a project that we believe can be funded out of that fund. Because, that's just not the reality we live in, right? Like sometimes contractors, you have a short window. And so I just want to be, cautious and cognizant of that, right? That we often have to, and we also, Tom lives and breathes these facilities as well. I'm in here too. We come up with ideas of things that we think might be valuable. And so we might move on them as well. So I think that we'd certainly love to hear the committee's ideas for how it's spent. I just, this notion, Art, that we can't spend money out of it because the committee has to approve it, I think is not, I don't want to sort of get to that point, right? Because there are things that we see need to be done as well, that we just don't have sometimes the timeframes to, to wait on.
Right, there's two, I understand both perspectives here, the city, you got a lot going on, there's a lot moving, the funds are tight, you gotta do kind of what you gotta do, we're not trying to handcuff you at all.
Of course, yeah.
But it would be, from my point of view, good to clarify, from the original documents, what that was intended for, and it was not intended to be used as just a maintenance fund. So, we can agree
Of course.
to meet in the middle on that.
And I don't think we disagree. I mean, that's, if it was a maintenance fund, we'd have been rating it for years.
No.
Right, I mean, that's, and we don't view, as I said, the lights and the heaters may appear to be maintenance, but the heaters are an improved structure that was there. And the lights are replacement of, as Tom said, something that's illegal to buy in Vermont anymore.
Right.
So I think those are, I don't even think there's debate about those in my mind.
Right.
No, I'm not debating it.
Yeah.
If you're gonna send out an email to the committee saying, hey, we decided.
And you guys are gonna do it anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You guys do what you need to do.
And the other thing I wanna say is that fund has got a ton more money in it than I ever thought it would have, just started doing this or whatever. I did say like a year ago, hey, this committee, hey, if we don't find some ways to spend it, somebody's going to. I don't disagree with it. I mean, I think it's, like you said, communication.
Yeah.
If you send out an email and say, hey, we got a deal, we got to replace the lights, we're gonna have to take the money out of the fund.
We're not gonna say you can't, because we can't.
Yeah, we can't say can't, we understand that.
No, understood.
And I'm thankful for everything Jim has done to build that fund, because that fund is bigger than any of us thought it would be.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Do you have something?
Yeah, just briefly. So at some point, once we come to terms with what the fund was set up as, we all need to be on the same page as we describe it, because I know how I describe it and how Jim might describe it to people who are actually spending their money. We want to make sure that everyone is pleased with the goals of this fund. Also, just briefly on the communications front, we put out minutes, and I hope that they're read, but about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the committee pledged $100,000 from this fund for part of this Bernie Sanders improvement to the facilities. So there might be other things like that are in the minutes that we are recommending, that we have voted on, that need to be taken into consideration when other decisions are being made. And that's why the communications activity that Art brought up, we meet on a monthly basis. We have email. All it takes is a couple of seconds to give us a heads up so that we know oh, that decision was made, we may need to recalibrate decisions that we're discussing here at committee and recommendations that we want to make. So I kind of feel like it's not so much that we're having an argument about who has the final say. It's basically, please know that we might be stepping on each other's toes. And we want to do the best for the facilities. That means we've got to communicate as promptly and clearly as we can possibly do. And so that's where I want to stand. That I feel like the last couple of times we've found out as an after the fact, maybe months after something has happened. And I don't think that that's the best way we can do business for these buildings. So
I also think that communication will improve. There's been a lot of, new city manager, new, Tom's new in this position. It seems like everyone's settling in, so we're getting used to each other, not changing, we're meeting with someone different, several weeks in a row. So I think that will help to get some familiarity. Let's just move
Yeah.
forward. Mr. Nolan's got anything else on that?
Yeah, so my thing is too, is that money that's in there is for up here. We don't want it, I mean, I guess our concern was, I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, to be used for something else down.
Oh, yeah, it never has
But
been.
it's
Never
like
has
kind of fun.
No,
That's what everyone's in
It
agreement on.
never has been.
So we need new lights at City Hall, and then they, well, we get the money and we use it down there.
Yeah.
Just-
Yep, we've never done that.
Okay, so next item was the committee charge. I think we'll skip that until we have a little more discussion on that civic center fund. So the civic center rates, next time.
Sure. I'd like to have an executive session before the manager leaves, that he's here for, so I don't know if I'm gonna be here the whole meeting or.
I can be here for, till what time you're told?
Normally we get out at 9:30.
Yeah, I can be here for that.
Okay, so there's a couple items we're gonna go through quick, because we don't have people, but this civic center rates, we talked about that last week. So we did get a kind of an idea of, Matt went around and got, everyone got a copy of that. He sent it out, emailed everyone. It looks like, the BY was kind of right in the middle, for ice. We're $215. The average of the other rinks is $228, so we're a little lower than them. Some of the rinks are a little nicer. Douglas Carnes is right in the middle of Burlington. I expect them to be bigger. Waterbury is higher, Stowe is higher, which is a nicer, newer rink. But, the $215 an hour seems reasonable to me. I don't know if you guys have had any thought of that.
I don't, I look at, thought maybe we could bump it up a little bit.
Yeah,
But
I would suggest that we go up something like $10 or whatever, because we haven't gone up on them.
Well, we went down, remember we went down because we were trying to attract people and then we were giving a better deal during the day and stuff, and remember I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's good. I'm not a big fan of just the rates for times.
Just,
And,
just with one season of experience. We don't get anybody until 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right, correct.
We have stick and puck and open skates, but no rent.
No. Right.
And I did see on there they have. Some of them have off-peak hours,
non-prime
but
hours.
we're getting. We have peak hours and that's like it.
Yeah.
Right.
But
I
also,
was trying to attract that time, I think we could get.
but I mean,
Might be able to get a hockey league in there, might be able to get someone in there.
golden age.
Yeah.
Curling or whatever. Unfortunately, during weekdays, everybody's working.
Yes.
Most of the people who are gonna be skating are either working or they're in school.
there's fewer kids available anyways, whether they're in school or not.
Right, but,
There are.
You know, once 3:30 hits, that's when it gets busy up
Yeah.
there. And the same right currently with the turf.
Yeah.
3:30 to 8:30.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday for the last 2 weeks and for the next two and a half, we're booked, which is great.
And I will say that turf is awesome.
Mhm.
Having practice on that turf is so much nicer than it used to be. It's really fantastic.
Our building may not be as good as some others, but our turf is better than some others.
It's a fantastic spot for practice now.
Any ice.
Yeah, that is the best ice in the state of Vermont.
We got the.
It's harder than a brick. It is. If you ever fall down on it, you'll know, right?
Yes, it is. So moving on to the turf, it was 110. That is pretty much the lowest. Except for Essex skating, but they are concrete. I think when we did the turf, I think actually Nick was on that to keep it low for a year and then
Yeah,
see how much would draw.
and I've been going back and forth, I think that, what we don't have a lot of, or any at this point, is like a standalone rental, like the rental right now are lacrosse, Spalding, BYSA. We don't have like somebody renting it out to come play soccer with their neighborhood kids, so I think it's a little bit prohibitive for that, right? Like if you're trying to, you know, bring in your kid's soccer team for a fun day of soccer, like $110 is a little bit much to spring for that, so I've been wondering if that's, you know, if we're not if we're too high to attract those kinds of rentals, right, where you know, the ad hoc, so to speak, rentals, and then the other piece is birthday parties. So I think birthday parties could be a really big draw there. There's not a lot of places to do birthday parties in central Vermont that are indoors like that. I mean, there's a handful, like my kids have been invited to, like there's a gym in Berlin, but this is pretty unique for, you know, a sporty kid to have their party there with their friends. And so, you know, birthday party rental, you're lucky to do it in an hour and a half. And so you're looking at $165 for an hour and a half. You start to price out some people in Barre City. So I've been thinking about a birthday rental, just a separate birthday rental fee or a party fee, right? Where you're not a league, you're not an organized group, and you just want to do sort of an ad hoc activity like that. And we have you know, set up a separate fee for an event of that nature, because I think it could be busy for parties. Like my son did his birthday party there, a great time. A lot of people who came to his party had never seen the turf before, so I think even that is an exposure for it. And seriously, when we think about places to have birthday parties indoors, like that's, you know, that's the one here. Otherwise, we, you know, end up going to Get Air in Williston, which is a pain in the neck, right? So I've been thinking and kicking around the idea in my head of something like that. I don't know how to structure it yet. But I think that it would add exposure, it would fill up a lot of hours in there. So anyway, that's
We
the
could
thought.
certainly look at that, you know, just with the ice prime and non-prime, you know, prime for the turf, non-prime, I don't know, like.
That
Saturdays
could be,
we get busy,
yeah.
Saturdays and
morning.
Sundays.
Yeah, that's a way to do it. We've already, also the staffing is a challenge there because staffing at the BOR is just, it's so full of rentals that we just have dedicated staff from afternoon to night, right? We shift the schedules.
Right.
For the BOR, for the turf, we haven't done it yet because the hours are a little bit more variable, but we've started kicking around the idea of, you know, if we have a rental on the Easter egg is the example, right? The Easter egg hunt ends at 1 o'clock. And we had a rental who wanted to come in from 4 to 6 that day. So we said, you know, if you come, we'll rent to you from 4 to 6. You come in from 1:30 to 3:30, we'll give you like a $40 discount, because then we don't have to pay somebody to come in for that, right? So we're trying to see if we can incentivize people to schedule around our staffing. And I don't, you know, who knows where that landed, but that's another thing we're trying to talk about.
We had talked about it, renting it Saturday, so we looked at the website and for last Saturday. And there was someone in the morning for Spalding Lacrosse, I think, and then someone in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of overtime on there.
There is.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and if you're talking
Saturdays-
birthday parties and things like that.
Yeah.
Saturdays and Sundays with the turf
Not quite,
are pretty seriously quiet,
right,
which is why we have to make the discussion about staffing.
right, but if you're gonna promote things like birthday parties or other events,
We're gonna have to have
you're
somebody
gonna have to
there.
somehow solve that issue.
Yeah, and so, I mean, but the other thing, you know, speaking of those open times, so I, you know, Saturday was rainy, so, I'm in town, we opened it up for open soccer. right? We got 20 kids to show up, we posted on Facebook. And, you know, that was, we made it free of admission, right? Because we said, just come and play inside on the turf, right? So it was good, we got 20 kids. But I'd love for, you know, and I'm happy to do that type of stuff. And it's unfortunate that I can do it, right? Because I have a key to the building, I can post it on Facebook and we can just make it available. But I'd love for, you know, a rainy day like that, you see it on the calendar, you're a parent, what am I gonna do with the kids? Well, if I get my kid and 10 other kids together and we each pitch in $5, we can go rent the deal, right? Like that would be a great use of that space. Are they gonna do it for $110? Probably not.
Right.
But if we have this other, you know, some level of tiered pricing, we might be able to get those, those rentals.
I would think you'd be able to set it up with the event pricing, if somebody wanted a special event, like a birthday party.
Yeah.
You would have a flat rate that they would pay, and if you had to have somebody there, just to monitor that, that can be an add-on.
Right.
Or if they had somebody that would say, okay, I'll be responsible,
Right.
you know, for the, watching the event, in other words.
I'm not,
You know,
I'm not much in favor, based on past experience, of having somebody say, don't worry about a thing. I'll
all
take care
depends
of
on
it.
who they are.
Well, I agree with that, but then you've got to decide who's doing it.
Currently, what we made an arrangement with Spalding to let them lock the building up when we're done.
But Spalding is, and it's talking about a group of kids for a birthday party.
We got Spalding. We're-
Well, no, you would have,
arrangements with them,
you would have.
And then BYSA, they make that same arrangement.
Well,
But what he's talking about, a one-off, I'm definitely gonna have somebody there.
I think the city would want
You know,
someone there.
But you can have that as an added charge, in other words.
That one may,
So
you may
you're
have
giving
to
them
figure
a rental.
into the cost, that may have. to
Right,
be-
I mean, the staffing costs us, what, $60 for 2 hours of overtime on this, the most expensive person or a little bit?
No, that's the cheapest
That's
person.
the cheapest person.
That's the cheapest person.
So we have to at least cover 2 hours of overtime. In the rate, right, like that, we can't give it away, right, it's like, it has to at least cover that.
Do you have to have staff here?
Well,
Can
for,
like, could we generate a list of trusted volunteers that would help out?
We've talked about that.
that, we may have to discuss with you.
That's what I was gonna say, it's a union issue, you're gonna run into that. It's a mixed bag, Paul, because those staff, they don't particularly like working those hours, like brutally honest, right? Like they like to do their 7 to 3:30 schedule on Mondays to Fridays, especially after the ice season is done. But I bet if we try to, you know, if they weren't offered that work, we would probably get a grievance because it's union work.
Right.
Now, I've had this argument, we've had this debate with the union, which is specifically around the Zamboni, with some of them didn't want to do those hours, like, hey, it's union work. Right, so you have to come in and do it. But that's the challenge we have, like, we're damned if we do, damned if we don't. We can offer it out, but we may get a grievance if we.
Right.
But the reality is most of the staff don't like to do those overtime hours anyway, because they don't like to come in on the weekends.
Like volunteers coming and paint, now we'll come in and paint on our time, and we're shut down because of the.
You know, as looking at it, staffing wise, both us and the staff realize ice time is where we make our.
Yeah.
Right, so. We have to cover that.
Yeah.
And turf time. Right now is more of a, I hate to say it, but more of a gravy kind of thing. So if I'm gonna have to cash in some of my, you have the voluntold chips, you're working,
Right,
I'm cashing them in the winter.
right,
We start and, you know, unfortunately, we're just coming off that winter cycle.
right.
So they kind of want to get back into this 7:30 to 3:30, that's,
Right.
you know, I'm not coming in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, going home at 11.
I wanna be home where the weather's getting better, I can be out, I can do something.
Right, that's a tricky issue that the two of you are gonna have to, settle. I personally think that we're trying to get exposure.
Yeah.
Out there and having birthday parties or having a
Oh, yeah.
soccer league come in or something on the weekend, I think
Right.
is, you know.
So we actually met about this yesterday with, Tom, and we basically said, you know, anything from 9 to, I forget, was it 9 to 7 on Saturdays, we're gonna book.
Right.
Everything 9 to 5 on Sunday, we're gonna book. So if anybody comes in during those times, Tom's gonna farm it out to his team and they're gonna staff it. Now, if somebody comes in and says, I wanna rent the, you know, I want a one-off to rent the turf at 8 o'clock on Saturday, we're gonna say, look, the hours are 9 to 7. If somebody comes in and says, I wanna run a soccer tournament from 9 to 9 PM, we're gonna say, absolutely, right? Like, that's a different scale of event.
Yes.
It's outside the hours, but it's more than a one-off. If we're getting one-offs, we're gonna try to steer them towards those set hours. But we're, you know, we're committed to staffing them because we were just having this talk. If we don't make it available for people to come, as inconvenient as it might be for the staff to come open it, they won't come. Right? It'll just be, it's unreliable, you can't get time at Barre, it's tough to schedule.
Yeah.
We don't want that. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try to, you know, 9 to 7, you're gonna get your time on Saturdays, 9 to 5, you're gonna get your time on Sundays. Anything outside that, we'll look at on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
Weekdays, it's, we went till 9 o'clock, 7:30 to 9, I think we said.
So
So,
I think that's excellent. I mean, it's a commitment for the city to do it. I'd love to try to get some sort of men's league like hockey in there, men's
Yeah.
league indoor soccer, men's
Yeah.
league box lacrosse or something.
yeah,
Would be excellent. So I'm glad the city's.
yeah, and I mean,
Pursuing it like that.
part of it is to open it up. I mean, we're gonna have a lot of open turf during school vacation, so we're hoping that people can go out. If part of it is that we open it up for free use, so that people come and see it and play on it and see how great it is. We'll do that. I mean, that's, you know, that's, like I said, I did that on Saturday for the kids because there was nothing else to do. But if we have to do, you know, even, you know, we tried with the ice, it didn't pick up, but, you know, we try to do lunchtime stick and puck because I figured.
Yeah.
You know, you're working, you have your lunch break, come shoot the puck a little bit. It didn't pick up quite as much as we hoped. But you know, maybe we'll do like a lunchtime soccer, right? Like open it up for lunchtime soccer, just like we do the walkers from 8:30 to 10. Maybe we could maybe try an 11 to 1 open turf where if you're on your lunch break and you wanna come. Kick a soccer ball or throw a football, you can do it there, or we do some, you know, something in the evenings. I've talked to the Parks and Rec committee about like, you know. It doesn't take a lot, I just don't have the time to do it, but if somebody with a spreadsheet. Could create like a pickup soccer league in there, and we could, you know, if it needs to start out with the city donating the time. We would do that because it's gonna grow into something else, so.
It sometimes takes time to, a year or two to get that rolling, but
Yeah.
definitely appreciate the city approaching like that.
Just curious, the 9 to 7, I mean, that's a 10-hour day or whatever, and you would have one person here?
No,
Two.
yeah, but what we're doing it basically, like, it would be, they would be on call, right? So like, if we have a booking for, if we get a booking on, you know, from 9 to 10. Or 9 to 11, there would be somebody in for that, and then if the next booking is 1 to 4.
I was just wondering about, I know Charlie wants to get going here, it's gonna be 9:30 before we know it, I like to have an executive session. I'm just wondering about compressing it to start with and encouraging, not forcing, I guess, encouraging people to be in a smaller time frame. Will work better for your staffing.
Well, yeah, it's a balance, right? Like we wanna be able to, the 9 to 7 allows. Basically, what the 9 to 7 does is allows the person who does this, who does the intake of scheduling, which is Nancy. If she gets a request for an event from 9 to 7, she knows she can book it.
Okay.
Right, and so so just as, you know, we can use it as an example, right? If she gets in an event from 9 to 11 on a Saturday, she books it because that's within the 9 to 7 PM. Then Tom sees it on the calendar, he knows he needs somebody to come in and open and close for that. If she gets another booking for that day and they say, you know, I wanna come in 2 to 4. We've told her to say, you know, you can have 2 to 4, that's within our hours of operation. If you come in from 12 to 2, we'll give you a $40 discount,
Yeah.
right? And so that's,
Staff.
we're trying to incentivize them by saying, you save $40 if you change your time to this, because that way you have one person who's in for 4 hours instead of having to call them out.
If it's working for you for your staffing issues, then that's fine. I was just trying to make it easier where you're in your staffing
No,
issues.
I think we're on the same page. Yeah.
It's, one more question, and we're good.
It's sort of a question statement. We as a committee have talked about this in the past. But as sort of a manager, I would strongly urge reconsideration of the recreation director position, not a full-time position, but a part-time position, junior level. It would allow you to have somebody who's always looking to develop new relationships with other organizations. It would allow you to have somebody who can pinch hit for opening and closing buildings. And it would allow you for the design of what the future recreational program might look like. It could be 3 days a week. I think you could get it to pay for itself within about 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to have that position. I don't know if we could find that person. What I think the best outcome is, and I'm gonna put this, Charlie will take care of this for me, is we should share with the town.
Yeah.
There's no reason we shouldn't share
Absolutely.
a rec director with the town. I don't know where the select board is on that. I think that's probably more of the barrier. But I've offered to pay for half of the salary of the person who's doing it. And I think that the synergy between the city and the town sharing a rec director
Yes.
is that we have really nice outdoor facilities, but not nearly as nice as the towns. The town doesn't have any indoor facilities, right? So you have the whole breadth of indoor and outdoor facilities to do like a really great recreational program. And so Charlie will take care of that.
That would be great.
Great idea.
He'll fix it.
I think it'd be wonderful.
He'll go to the select board and get that done.
If you can pull that off, I'm gonna vote for you for manager.
Honestly, it's a standing offer.
It's crazy.
It's a standing offer on the table that, and I don't know Guy all that well, but I know enough that if, he's, just from the east, right, I'm sure he could do it.
Yes.
And, it's a standing offer that we would pay for half the salary, the same way we pay for the use of the yard waste
Let's
site.
do it.
But I think we're drawing from the same people, we're drawing from the same communities,
It's all the same kids.
It's the
You know,
same
kids
kids,
get together and they all play hockey, some for the city, some for the town, they're all playing together and they're all.
It's a no-brainer, and it's a standing offer that we, that we pay for half of that position.
Yeah. You saying an offer to Guy or to?
To anybody, to Chris, anybody.
Okay.
To the town.
Yeah.
To the town as a whole.
Okay. I think that's a great move. So moving on, this is an important one. We'd love to get an idea of the congressional grant status and where you sit with all that money.
So I've signed some paperwork some of the routine paperwork the last week. Tom got, a proposal from an architectural firm to get us our scope. I need their approval, I'm waiting for their approval to tell us that we're good to spend money. And then we'll be able to pull the trigger on that, Freeman French.
The company that designed. They did send us a package for, putting together the scopes and bids. And we included the MERC grant in that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for the go-ahead, the green light to spend that's 50K, I think it was, we said something around
Something
that.
around there.
So I'm just waiting for the green light to spend that, just to spend that money, for them to tell me that the grant will cover that.
And then in terms of the Sanders grant, a lot is happening in Washington right now. Is that money secured in a bank account or is that still gotta go?
It's not in a city bank account, it's with the local USDA, and it's been obligated, so from every indication we have it's safe.
So you're not concerned that that's part of these cutbacks?
No, yeah, they've not told us anything that it's in danger, it hasn't been cut from any of the recent cuts.
Okay.
It was, as I understand it from what USDA told me, is that it was sent from Washington to the local office in the Northeast. So they have it.
Good, so it's underway to get some of it and start some of the projects.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, as soon as we get like I said, I had to sign some documents last week. It was a banking information, so that's a good sign. But as soon as we get the green light that, you know, what we need from them is like, yes, you can start. You can spend the money and you can get reimbursed from the grant for the pretty much so then we'll be good to go.
Yeah, good. I got my fingers crossed. Yeah, that's such a huge, because you don't find out until the last minute.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, reading about all these Doge cuts and Doge spending, I don't know, part of me is like, it's so hard to spend federal money. I'm like shocked anyone spend it, you know, like, these things they're cutting that they say were wasteful, like. Part of me is like, good for them for spending federal money, because it's not easy. So,
Yeah.
it is tough to spend a dime in federal money, so.
Do we have any budgets for some of the bigger work that has to be done here? Or is that we're waiting to?
That's what we're gonna be,
Yeah.
we're waiting, that's gonna be in their package.
Yes,
Start getting
okay,
numbers
so
together.
they're putting together budgets.
Yeah, because all we really have is like the back of the envelope stuff that,
Yeah, well,
EF wall did, so they need to actually put some.
Okay, so
And that was 3-4 years ago.
Right, so Hayden and French is going out to get quotes from electrical contractors and all that.
Yeah.
That's part, okay, great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That will not be a small ticket item. So, good, does anyone have any questions on the congressional grants?
No, I would love to get a copy of the French Freeman report. Whenever it's available. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we're doing okay, staff reports on, I think we covered everything.
Charlie, I got one thing.
Yep.
So I just had to get re-upped again, which seems like I just did that last year. So.
It's every 2 years, and,
I just got.
the people that have to get re-upped, I believe as chair, I can write a letter to Nicholas, and then you don't have to go in front of the council.
Yeah, well, I just sent my thing in, so you got.
Yeah, I know John's involved, the two of you are involved.
I am too, but I'm going for the council. Gives me a chance to brag about what we do.
I love it. Good. You want your say?
Yeah,
Okay.
I want my day in.
Yes. Okay, so I'll write letters for the three of you and to Nicholas, and then you'll have to my friend city council. Staff report for Tom, I think we covered a lot. Do you have anything else to bring up?
No, we had, I think, we got the turf down, the turf went down.
Yep. Yes,
So fluid this time, it was crazy.
good.
We wound up trimming one piece.
Yep. Yep, it is a fantastic.
It went down, looks good. We did that, like I said, I've got some pricing on tables.
Yep.
Round tables.
Yep.
With carts and some pipe and drape.
Yep, I need to add some square tables or rectangular
Yeah,
tables in there too.
yeah.
So, according to Brad.
How many old tables do we still have down there? They're brown heavy. Still got a couple of those?
Oh, I think
Check
about
out
10 or
place.
12 of them. They're big and heavy.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that we probably should find
Place to put 'em.
someplace to donate to.
Okay, moving on to the marketing report, Jim is, I think, flying back today, so he asked, he'll be here for the next meeting, which he asked, we're gonna try to get the VPA here at the next meeting. So we got about 10 minutes, 8 minutes left,
You requested a motion to have an executive session for a personnel issue.
personal issue. We have a second,
I second it.
Second.
okay, so moving into executive session, okay, that was good, appreciate everyone, and then I think we're all set with this meeting, unless anyone's got anything to add. I think the motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion adjourned. All right, Nicholas, appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Hopefully we didn't ambush you too bad.
No, not like the city.